So, I just finished an amazing road trip across North Carolina with my friend Ben Phillips. And at first, I wanted to do a video or put something in writing, show off some pictures of the places we saw, the things we did, that sort of thing. Um, but then when I got back, I started thinking back on the trip and I realized that my takeaways were much more profound than just the places we went and the beautiful sights that we saw. Granted, North Carolina is an amazing place, so there's plenty of beauty to behold there. The Outer Banks Islands, um, Asheville, great little town, the beautiful road that leads from there, and all kinds of sights that we got to see. Um, Not to mention Southern hospitality and delicious food. So there's lots of wealth there. But the insights that I received during this road trip were so much more profound that I figured that's what I wanted to share. So here are just a few, five to be exact. Number five, I'll start at five. Really simple. No red lights. So that was my first insight, my takeaway from our road trip across North Carolina. We put on about 1,200 miles on the car that we rented, maybe a bit more. And one thing that we observed very early on is that there are a lot of lights for some reason on North Carolina's highways. We're not used to this so much in Oregon. So, we'd be driving along and suddenly we'd hit a red light in the middle of nowhere. And this went on and on and on. They're not really well-timed red lights either, or lights in general. Seem to be times that you always hit the red. So, after a while of dealing with this and getting frustrated because we're trying to get somewhere, I decided that I would introduce the notion that instead of viewing red lights as obstacles, we could just take them as mindfulness moments. And we really got into this, and it took up, every red light from then on out. We started using as mindfulness moments, which just means to take the red light as a moment to pause, to become present with your breath, or perhaps to observe some beautiful sight off to the side that if you had just been blowing past, you would have never even noticed. So mindfulness is a big part of my life. It enriches my life on a regular basis. So why not use the red lights as moments to enhance the journey overall? And it worked beautifully. We ended up laughing so many times about our mindfulness moments. This is something I think I'll carry on with from here on out. And we can expand this to life in general. There are many red lights in life. There are dead ends that we all meet in life. Corners, yield signs, these things that seem to interfere with our progress. We don't need to view them that way. We can take them as simple reminders that the ultimate journey is to become present and to be more at peace and more deeply awake. That leads me directly into an extension of that idea, which was um, enjoy the journey. But like I said, we put in some 1,200 miles on this journey. So if we had just been looking for the next destination to provide us with some stimulation, some excitement, some enrichment, that would have been pretty much most of our journey would have been a wash. It would have just been wasted on projecting into the future of what it's going to be like when we get to wherever we were going, whether it's a hotel or a site we wanted to see or some attraction, something like that. So that is insight number one. Enjoy the journey. Take the time to stop and look at the little sights along the way. We stopped at a beautiful lighthouse that ended up being a great experience for us for so many different reasons. But even a little hike we took on a trail turned out to be a beautiful experience. And even sometimes pausing at lights or pausing here and there and taking a sec to notice your surroundings. Even if you're looking up at the red light, beyond the red light, you may notice that the weather is beautiful. The sky is sparkling clear, for instance, and you can take a moment to appreciate that. And then beyond just the things to see that are around you, there's also stimulating conversations that occur and sometimes just inner insights that you might have. So all of these things provided a wealth to our journey far beyond the destinations we were reaching for. And once again, the idea is to just take time to appreciate all of it, the whole journey, not just the destination. And you may have noticed in your own life that when you're focused on a destination so intensely, that by the time you get to it, you're so frantic and you're overwhelmed with stress from all of your thinking and all of the red lights that you didn't appreciate along the way, that you don't even enjoy the experience once you're there. So this removes all of that stress. Enjoy the journey. And that leads me into insight number 3. Insight number 3 actually came to me, benefits of my traveling companion, Ben. Ben is a relationship and sexuality coach, and a very good one, I will say that. He gave me lots of free coaching along the way while we're stuck with each other in the car. I figured we may as well make use of the conversation, and he figured the same way. I'm a single guy, and I've been single for some years. And after being single and enjoying that, it's a lot less stressful, right? For a long time, though, I'm finally in a position where I feel ready to develop a new relationship with somebody and explore that. So I got some nice coaching tips from him, and I wanted to share one with you. And this one relates specifically to enhancing sexual encounters. And you can once again spread this out to other areas of your life and to relationships in general. Of course, you can extend this relationship this lesson far beyond this one particular framework. But in terms of sexual encounters, one of the greatest ways it came out to increase the intensity of a sexual experience is to slow down. Slow down. Enjoy the experience. I think that a lot of times when we get excited sexually, and just a lot of times in life in general, our tendency is to rush and to hurry. We want to get to that final moment. We want to just get to what I call the cookie, the reward, right? But you know, if you were reading a novel, like let's say a mystery novel, and the author revealed who done it 5 or 10 pages into the novel, the whole thing is blown. The whole journey is wasted. So one of the notions here is you want to let that mystery extend and that experience extend out and enjoy it just as you would enjoy the journey to any destination. It's not about the destination. Truly, the ultimate destination, perhaps we could say, is learning to appreciate those little steps along the way. That is the ultimate journey for me. That's my ultimate destination, going deeper and deeper into that. And so slow down with your partner. A great sexual encounter actually begins with perhaps a little brush of your feet under the table when you're out on a date. That little accidental touch of your legs together, and you get that tingly sensation shooting up from your groin all the way up through your solar plexus, that fluttering wonderfulness, which, where does it come from? Electricity. So perhaps it begins there, or with a nice conversation, a whisper in the ear, suggestive whispers, right? And even when the time comes, instead of rushing into it, how about just take an instant, a few moments to just appreciate the person and their presence? How about appreciating the curve of her hip, the line of her neck, the way she smells and tastes. How about all of that? And then, so, if you're having dinner, right? You want to have maybe an appetizer, maybe a little drink, maybe a salad, then your main course, which you should appreciate fully, of course, and then finally comes the cookie, the dessert. And that will increase that moment, the enjoyment of that dessert, so many more times over. To get back to the analogy of a mystery, if you extend that mystery out over 300 pages and then on the last 5 or 10 pages, that's when everything is revealed and it climaxes. That is going to be a much more satisfying event than if you had just, the author had just spilled the beans right away. Same thing here. Another little tip that I got from him that I'll pass along to you is that if you really want to turn your partner on, instead of trying to do something to them, to touch them here, to go right for their, let's call it special parts, how about focusing on your own state of stimulation? Is there a sense within you that is turned on? Is there a sense in your body you can attach to and focus on that? If you do, your partner will automatically click onto that. If you're turned on ultimately and you focus on that, she'll or he'll become turned on as well naturally. So there is a second little tip there. Let's slow down. Enjoy the journey. There are no red lights. Another thing that, another insight that I had was quite remarkable, and this one actually pertains and came about as a result of Ben's mother. So Ben's parents, both of them, actually met us down in, well, South Carolina, just across the border, for the last few days of our journey. And we went down there and we just stayed with them in this little condo that they rented. I slept on a sleeper sofa. It was a 1-bedroom place. Ben actually slept out on the patio. It was great, honestly. So, mostly though, what we did was we just hung out and we just did a lot of talking. We didn't go a lot of places, and this was a very intimate experience. And I've known Ben for a long, long time, and as a result, I've known his parents for a long time as well. Well, the interesting thing about Ben's mom, she's a great lady, but she doesn't really get humor, right? She doesn't laugh hardly ever, especially sarcasm, which is one of my favorite tools that I use. And I say tools because those of you who know me know that I'm always laughing and I'm always making other people laugh. I believe from my own experience, both in meditation and in laughter, and comparing the two, that laughter is as close as so many of us come to nirvana in our lifetimes. Unless you're exploring that directly, laughter may be the only thing you experience that resembles your true original state. When you're in a state of laughter, and I don't mean laughter that's aroused due to insulting somebody, making them feel bad, nothing like that, just natural, joyous laughter. When you're in that state of laughter, you disappear as far as ego states go. You do not view whoever you're laughing with in that moment as separate from you. You are sharing that experience fully, and you are in a state of pure joy. That is what laughter ultimately is, and that's as close as we come sometimes to, as I said, nirvana, to God realization. That is our original state. It's a state of pure joy and pure release, no judgment, no separation from anyone or anything. There's not even a concept of self. So I use laughter as a tool to help awaken people and bring out their natural joy and help them drop judgments. Well, I was thwarted very efficiently by Ben's mom, Mary Ellen. And try as I might, she wouldn't laugh at a single thing. She took everything literally and seriously. So I eventually just sort of gave up and just went about my existence. Well, one day, the only place we actually traveled as a group together was this little town on a seafront. It was actually on the Atlantic. There's a canal or a waterway that leads from Florida all the way up the East Coast. And it was fronting that. We stopped at a little park there. And Ben and his father decided to walk out onto the fishing pier. But Mary Ellen, has some physical challenge at her age. And so she just wanted to sit and rest a little bit. So I joined her on this little park bench, swing style park bench. And we sat together just watching the beauty of the water and the passing boats and the fisher people catching or trying to catch their fishes off the dock. And a conversation popped up, and Mary Ellen started talking about her son and her other son. So they had lost their son. He had died just a few months before, and she started talking in depth about how he had suffered during the end of his life, and he actually confessed to her that he didn't want to live anymore. And he was young man, about 50-ish, right around there. And he even signed a do not resuscitate order and died a short time thereafter, suddenly from a heart attack. And of course, this is a major thing in their life for any parent to lose their child. But it reminded me, and it sparked something from my past in regards to this that I had just talked about with another friend, which is that when my mom died pretty young at 67, she had had rheumatoid arthritis for years and years, decades, and it had pretty much destroyed her body to the point where she could no longer walk. So I started telling Mary Ellen about this story because it really, what she had said sparked this memory in me. Um, what happened near the end of my mom's life was she was in a nursing facility and she was still lucid here. So a lot of the people in that facility were not. They were, they had Alzheimer's disease, they were senile, and they had withdrawn from the world. Well, my mom still had, a vibrant enough mind, but her body was broken down. She just could no longer walk and take care of herself. And this was the last alternative. We always looked at it as hopefully she would be rehabilitated, but she ultimately developed an anxiety disorder and would not get out of bed again. So it was devastating for us to witness this decline in somebody who had been so vibrant and alive physically as a young woman. But near the end of her life, there was another woman who was more lucid like her, and they had ended up being roommates in this facility. But at some point, we had get hit by a heat wave, and the facility's air conditioning system failed, and my mother's roommate died from the heat. And this devastated my mom. She watched the staff remove the body from the room, and this woman had become a close friend of my mother, and so it was devastating. In any case, some weeks later, I took my mom to a doctor's appointment, and she broke down when we were there with the physician. She broke down and she just started shedding tears, and she said, doctor, I just don't know how you do it, how you can handle losing patients, all the time. And he looked at her and he had a very lucid moment, which was unusual for him. She didn't really like him. He had no bedside manner, I guess you could say. But he said, Francis, sometimes death is just easier. Sometimes person's suffering so deeply that I can't help. I can't ease their pain. And sometimes that's just the better way, and it's a relief. And in that moment, I watched my mom's eyes light up, and she looked up, and I saw that she realized that was her way out. 3 weeks later, she developed a horrendous bladder infection that spread to her kidneys. This was sudden. There was no signs of this before. And it became untreatable. It was antibiotic resistant, and it overwhelmed her. And she died very, very shortly thereafter. Well, when I looked back at Mary Ellen after telling her about all this, I realized that she was crying herself. Something had given way and released itself there. And I don't know what that means or where it will lead for her or any of us. But it reminded me that when you just sit back and you drop all your expectations on how you can help somebody to laugh or to be more at ease, sometimes you just sit back and you listen and you make a space and you connect with them. Profound insights and possibly healings can occur without your even attempting it. And this was echoed and reinforced later that same exact evening when we went home. And I don't drink much, and she doesn't hardly drink at all. But on our way home, we picked up a really nice bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon, and out on the back patio, listening to the sounds of the sea, we shared a glass of wine, and before I knew it, suddenly I realized that there was a sound in my ear, and the sound was Mary Ellen laughing. And the most funny part about all this was I hadn't even said anything funny. One other insight I had shared with Mary Ellen was something that also occurred just a few days before my mother's passing. By the way, just pure coincidentally, my mom's birthday is tomorrow. So it's funny that all this would come up today. But anyway, just a few days before my mom passed away, she was in kind of a altered state of mind, but she had a sudden lucid moment while my sisters and I were sitting around with her at her bedside in the hospital. And she said, "Oh, you guys, I forgot to tell you. You know who came to visit me the other day? My brother, Don." Well, Don had died some 10 years or longer previous to this. But the way my mom said this was just profound. And she was really clear and insistent. And you know what? Despite her confused state of mind, generally speaking, I believed her. I do believe to this day that her brother came and visited her just previous to her own death. So this leads directly into my final insight, the last insight I want to share with you guys. Like I said, we spent a lot of time back at the condo, just talking and really not going anywhere. And I spent a lot of time sitting on the back porch, and I would watch the tide come in and go back out. And I would listen to the sound of the waves coming and going up the beach, crashing. I eventually started calling that the song of the sea. And even at night, I would hear it. I slept right on a sleeper sofa right next to a sliding glass door out onto the back patio, and I just left it open all night long. So I fell asleep to it, and in the middle of the night when I got up to use the restroom, it would be there, and in the morning it would be there. It was my continuous companion for those last few days. And I could see the sunrise on this side, and then I would see the sunset each evening on the other side. And it reminded me that of the cycles of life, right? And this is something we forget so often, just because we're so busy and we get caught up in our daily lives and in work. And to be quite honest with you, our pettiness. We get caught up in our thoughts, our rampant thoughts that just are run-on thoughts. And most of them don't mean anything. They're not particularly important at all. They're reruns usually. We get caught up on thinking about the past and some grievance from the past quite often. Something bad or negative that happened. But even when we're thinking about something positive, it's almost nostalgic because we'll never have that again. It's gone. And so there's sort of an emptiness and a melancholy to it. And then we're thinking about the future and everything we need to do between now and some point in the future, or our fears about what's going to happen, or our hopes and dreams, which all of which, in either case, no matter what they remove us from the appreciation of the present moment and the wholeness of our own being. When we let all that go and we step back, we experience such a tremendous shift in our perception that all the sense of loss sort of fades away. And that's kind of what I'm leading to here in my last insight, which was triggered by the conversation I had with Mary Ellen and the realization that people choose their own time of departing this world quite often. It is our choice quite often, possibly always. I don't know. But also that, just as my mom experienced before she passed away, her own brother, according to her reports, came to visit her. And as I watched from the back deck, the balcony, and watched the sun disappear and rise again each day, I was reminded that there are truly no losses in life. There are cycles. And even though the sun would disappear in the evening and circle back around the earth, I knew it wasn't gone. I just couldn't see it. Same is true with all of us in everything, all the people in our lives who seem to come and go. They're not gone, even if at the moment you can't see them. And sometimes I point out to people that the number one cause of death is actually birth. Some people don't understand what I mean by this, but if you think about it, the sun sets because the sun rose. These two are joined together, hand in hand. There is no separating them. But you know what? That sun will rise again and again. And 100 million more times will the sun rise. And all the while, there's this tremendous explosion of life going on everywhere, attached very much to this cycle, a part of this cycle, which we all forget in the hastiness and quite often the pettiness of our lives. But everywhere we see this incredible display of the tides coming and going. Every morning I would go out and I would take a run on the beach, and I would see jellyfish beached. I would have to dodge the incoming tide, fishermen on the beach, all different walks of life, people everywhere, all kinds of things happening. And I've got to say, I've never felt more a part of the natural cycles of the world than in that last few days of this road trip. And once again, it reminded me so much that there are truly no losses. When we think we have lost somebody, it's just because they've disappeared from our sight. In one day, I know that my mother will take me in her arms again, just like she did when I was a little babe, and she'll hold me up, and maybe I'll be crying at that moment, but the moment I see her shining face, my tears will stop, and I'll smile like so many little infants do, and I'll know that I'm home and that I'm safe. So this final lesson, this final insight is, don't let your tears blind you to the wonder that is surrounding you, to the beauty that surrounds you every day and flourishes everywhere, and the beauty that you are. Don't miss a single instant of it. Enjoy the journey.